Welcome to the Rental Realm podcast. My name is Jay Ullrich. I'm here with the founder of STR Search, John Bianchi. Thanks for being here, man.
Appreciate you having me, man. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, super excited to get your perspective on the STR industry. You have a lot of really cool involvement. You have your own business around it entirely, so I'm excited to kind of get into a little bit. And I think the first question I want to ask you is, why do they call you the Airbnb data guy?
Self-proclaimed, unfortunately. had to, I had to come up with a handle, and I saw somebody else that was the Airbnb guy, and I was like, "That's kind of cool." I'm like, "I like data though," so I'm like, "What about just the Airbnb data guy?" And I was like, I just made a handle, so now it's kind of stuck, and everyone refers to me as the Airbnb data guy. So a little
Yeah.
bit of marketing though, nothing too crazy of a story, unfortunately.
You're forever that guy now. But it's
Yeah.
definitely it's a cool title. I saw that on your Instagram handle and I was like, okay, I know exactly how like what his involvement is right now. So
That is to a T what I was going for. I love the data man. There's so many times where like I've thought about branching off to other parts of the Airbnb business, and I just do not have the excitement for it at all. So it is what it is. I just enjoy being just around the data and just keeping everything around that. So it works.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah, so I guess tell me about your company a little bit and what you do.
Yeah, so we find people cash flowing Airbnbs. If you're looking to purchase a property, you have over $150,000. You're looking to take advantage of the STR tax loophole. You hire us to be able to pinpoint, what's going to be the most profitable property for you to purchase based off of your budget and your preferences. So that is the core offer of what we do within our business. However, I've built my business around this idea of ensuring that nobody buys an unprofitable property ever again. I've talked to a ridiculous amount of people that have bought a property that's never going to work out for them, right? And so it started off by just creating a course that I thought I was going to be able to sell like 5 years ago about AirDNA, how to use AirDNA. It was like a 2.5 hours long. It was literally not a sellable course, right? But it was useful information, just not a sellable course.
Mhm.
And so I threw it up onto YouTube, and like 14,000 people have started it now, that course, and gone through, which is pretty wild. And that there has helped tons of people avoid buying an unprofitable property. And then that also kind of launched the business because it wasn't a business that I just started out of thin air where I was like, oh, we're just now going to be doing this, right? Instead, it was, I had a lot of people reaching out to me asking for help. And I realized that there was kind of this missing piece in the Airbnb industry where uh, people needed help understanding the Airbnb data so they could stop buying unprofitable properties. And so what I did was created offers, services, products, everything around that, all around that idea of ensuring that nobody buys an unprofitable property. So as of today, we've got 6 free Airbnb data courses that teach you everything that you need to know, with one of them being 40 hours long. And over the past 2 years, I had an exclusive contract with a company called TechVestor, which is the largest short-term rental investment fund in America. I helped them buy over 150 properties, and every single last one of those properties is cash flow positive. So we have a 100% success rate on that as well. And within the past 5 months now, we're getting up on to 5 months. We have no longer had that exclusivity contract. So we've been working with other individuals as well. And we have about, I think as of yesterday, we checked, we had 19 people who are already either officially closed or past inspection on those properties. So 19 additional people within 5 months. So just, anyways, it's great. A bunch of other people are helping out as well. I love it because I'm really good at this, which is a weird thing to say without being cocky, but like I genuinely like I've been pretty good at it, and it's nice to be able to help out people. And again, they can do it all themselves for free. That's why I got the free courses. But if they want to hire us because they don't have the time or they want to hire the expert, they have that option, and that's how I've built the business. So yeah,
Okay. So you have a few different options on your website so they can go through and they can do the courses, they can figure it out and take the time themselves and
yeah,
you've kind of put the structure into place so that they can figure it out, but you also provide the full service.
yep.
How far down the line do you go as far as you take them right up to the purchase and then you guide them through the actual closing of the property and then you go into furnishing, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's actually all the way to the point where right up until you probably are going to take the photos. I guess would be like the closest I would get, or before you hire a designer, I guess maybe be better. So I'm teaching them understanding how to analyze, pick a market, right? So how do you pick out a market in the first place? Because that part alone is very, very difficult. So very quick ways to like create a short list of markets that you care about. Then from there, how do you deep dive that market and understand it like the back of your hand? In other words, trying to ensure that whatever property you buy within that market or rent is going to be the most optimal purchase for your money, right? So I used to be a financial advisor before, so it's all about how do I take X amount of dollars and get the best possible return. And that's really what we're focused on there is creating buy boxes for the markets that are going to work out for you. And then once you understand what the revenue drivers are for that market and what works in that market, you can then find a property that meets the vast majority of the criteria for that market, right? And then you know that you're buying like one of the most optimal possible purchases in that market. And then from there, you learn how to like set that up through amenities, how to know what amenities matter, how to know what demographic matters, what design matters. There's a section with Avery Carl in there which goes through the entire purchasing process, so you understand just the most basic buying a property 101 that you got to go through. She walks us through that entire scenario, and then I brought on multiple different designers who talked about if you're going to design it yourself, here's everything that you need to know like end to end. And then other designers who are designers you can hire and what it's like to actually work with them. And then we did a whole section there with Ryan Bakey about taxes on top of that. And I brought on a mortgage expert as well who just ripped through like every single possible thing you need to know about mortgages. So pretty well everything that you need to know to get to the point of ready to take those photos and then get it listed on Airbnb, we've got it covered in that free training. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool that you pulled in a lot of the experts within the industry too. I know I met Ryan Bakey at the STR Nation conference in San Diego, so he's going to be on the podcast here in the next few weeks. But
Nice.
yeah, I think it's cool because you have all these different. Once you kind of get into the STR space and you start like providing some sort of tool, like for us it's HostBuddy AI, but
Hmm.
anybody really that's involved, you start to meet all these other people who are contributing so much to the space, and to be able to work with them is really really great and valuable because I mean in some ways it's really hard to be the expert at everything.
You
And so
really
it's not.
can't be. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone's like really good at usually one thing max, right? And that's pretty
yeah,
well it. So that's why you got to bring in like, yeah, I'm great with the data, but when it comes to mortgages, I don't know, I barely know anything, right? Like I'm a Canadian. I've never gone to mortgage in the States. So,
yeah,
yeah, I got to bring in the expert who can help get people past that line. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
big
was
time.
on your website yesterday and I saw some of the testimonials on there. It sounds like you've actually, you've done a lot of really good work for people, and a lot of people trust you. So yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
The
getting
data,
getting
I
real
mean,
life testimonials is super cool.
I mean, like I've been trying really, really hard to ensure that people trust me because that's my whole thing, right? I got to make sure that people understand that I really know what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And at the same time, I have to make sure I keep, not missing and then bat 1,000 and, doing well. So, yeah, I'm trying to keep pushing and ensure that we can actually help a
Yeah.
ton of people, right?
I think what you've done really well from what I've seen is to personalize your brand and really like put your face on it, because that allows people to not feel like they're just going with an agency that, they might not know who they're speaking with. They know that like you're the brain behind it and you're, making most of the decisions, and you're going to guide them through, and they can trust, all the advice they're giving. So I think as far as the design of your website and all that, like you really have like personalized it really well.
I appreciate there's pros and cons to that. You know what I mean? It's a tough business to scale past yourself, right? But at the same time, I mean, it is a lot of just me and what I've done, and so it makes sense for it to be around me and for people to trust in me. And like when you do that, you take on the responsibility of all of it, right? So when you put your face on something, you can't really just you can't screw up, right? And you can't really lose people money because everyone's going to come after you very, very quickly. And so I like that level of responsibility. I like that level of stress. It puts like another layer to it, and so it makes me have to ensure that like we're hitting it every single time. And I mean, so far so good, right? But we just got to keep that going.
Yeah,
So, yeah, yeah,
definitely.
man. Uh, I'd love to know more. I feel like we should have a conversation about AI, to be honest, because and what it's going to be doing to the industry, because like we're working on something right now, has nothing to do with messaging, it's not going to compete with you whatsoever, but the whole idea of AI and like what could be done in this sphere is very interesting. I'd love to like a breakdown of what you see as your vision for your company and where you guys see things going.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and so I mean the industry is changing so fast, and so we're really trying to keep up with the direction of STR, and we're trying to bring in a lot of input from what we're hearing from our host. And the great part is like I'm a host myself, and so like I have that experience, and I'm very involved in the industry already, so I get to have that first person view of what's going on. Within HostBuddy itself, our primary goal was to make sure that guests are going to be covered 24/7 as far as messaging goes. So we wanted to create the most powerful AI messaging tool on the market, and I believe we've done that. And I think there needs to be a certain point where people kind of accept AI, and we haven't 100% gotten to that point yet. And the great part about that is AI is going to continue to develop every year. Every like 6 to 12 months, there's a new model of whatever AI version that's come out, and it's been great to even like build the product alongside that and just see it improve our product in the same way. So a lot of people are already really receptive to it, but there are still some people who are very hesitant to use AI.
Yeah,
With
which makes
HostBuddy
sense.
itself, our primary goal, like I said, was to be a AI messaging solution, and that's what we're doing. But there's also little tools that we've added into the platform, such as vacant night upsells and
Mhm.
action items, and you know like being able to communicate directly with it through Slack, and kind of command HostBuddy to be like your own little assistant. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of features that we're also working on. Integrations, because like there's so many tools in the STR space, it's crazy. Like I swear there's a
Man,
new one like every week that somebody's like, do you integrate with this? And I'm like, I've never heard of that before.
it's
But I'm
where
sure we can take a look if it's
yeah.
used widely enough. So
Yeah, there's so many different software tools that you can use. Have you ever seen the master list? There's like there's some companies who have put together like here's every single software and there's just hundreds of them.
yeah, I've seen one. I want to say it was at a conference, but there was like columns of like here are all the PMSs, here's all like the pricing tools, the
Yeah.
messaging tools, and all that stuff.
Yeah, the
It's
PMSs.
wild.
The
Yeah.
amount of PMSs is super interesting because it's almost like somebody will build one and then they go, I can build this better. And then they start building it and they make it slightly better. And then somebody else looks at that person's software and goes, I can make it better. And they just like keep it's like these tiny iterations instead of it, which is also interesting because there's not one company that dominates. Because
Yeah.
Guesty used to dominate. Here's actually a question for you. What's stopping a company from like Guesty or Hospitable or any of these guys? I know Hospitable has some sort of AI in there. So what would make you guys different from Hospitable?
If Hospitable was able to implement an effective AI solution, that's up to them.
Yeah,
To
for
be
sure.
honest, like I know that what we've built is going to be the most powerful solution on the market regardless. It will take some time for PMSs to be able to build out their own AI within their systems and make it work for their hosts, um, and make the UI make sense and all of that. So our direct integration with all these property management systems allows users to be able to just log into our website and use it as just the AI messaging tool and command it from there. Whereas there's a lot that the PMSs would need to add within their platform in order to make that work. Um, what
Hmm.
we've actually been approached by some property management systems asking to essentially white label our product into their system. So instead of them having to spend months, potentially
Yeah.
years, creating an effective AI messaging feature, they can use ours and have that directly implemented into their API. So that's something we're considering, and I think it's kind of inevitable that everyone's going to be using AI within a couple years. So
For sure.
um, there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think we're open to it as a company to be able to provide that to PMSs, because the faster that we get it out directly through the property management systems, the quicker people will be able to use it. Which
Right.
is great, and it's really easy just to like implement. But Hospitable is it's funny you bring that up because they do have their own AI. It's not quite built out the same way that we have it, but there's intelligent suggestions that they're going to provide you, and we've tried to do a direct integration with them, and they're not super interested because they have their own product that they're building out. But
Right.
we've had many customers that use Hospitable that aren't super happy with it, and they come to us for a real AI messaging solution, and they're like, okay, well, it's not working entirely right now, and what we found is that Hospitable basically closed off the messaging endpoints
Mm,
for inquiry and past guests and future guests. So only current guests had the coverage within our integration. And so we had to reach out to them
interesting.
directly, and we're like, hey, like your users they're looking to actually use this. Like, can you just open that up for them? They're like, we'll do it case by case. So like there's
Oh,
a few of
really?
our
Yeah.
customers that, yeah, they've had to reach out to them directly, and we basically have to go through Hospitable now with every customer that has Hospitable. But I do think actually at this point we're the only AI messaging solution that's able to integrate with Hospitable completely. So that's an accomplishment in itself, I guess.
For sure. I mean, that definitely is. What makes you guys different than any other AI messaging tool?
Yeah, so I think the way that we've built our platform is super user friendly. Obviously, we're hosts ourselves, so we've for one built the platform and the user portal to make a whole lot of sense, and just like our goal was that we wanted AI to be able to completely replace the the human messaging. So like obviously you can review your messages and you can take a look at like how they're going out, but we wanted it so that host can just like take a back seat and be like, okay, host buddy's got this. And that that's our goal. And a lot of the other AI messaging solutions, I know there's a few out on the market right now. It's more of like a co-pilot type situation where like somebody um a guest message comes in, and then it's like, do you want to send this message? And it's like, sure, but that doesn't take away the need for the person to actually be there and approve those messages.
Mm.
Um, and I think there's other ways that you can configure it, but for us, we're like, how do we make the most effective AI messaging solution where that isn't needed? And so that's why a lot of our customers are satisfied with our product, is because they literally just turn it on and it's good to go for the entire day. And it's going to let you know when there's an issue. It's going to like, shoot out an action item, send it through Slack or text or email if there's anything major. But
Mm.
that's the main difference. We built our messaging to be the most effective. And it's not going to sound like a typical AI model. It's going to sound like a host.
So that part there is what I'm more interested in, to be honest, which is like the training models that you had to do to be able to make it sound more normal. I'm
Mhm.
curious about that process. Is like, could you walk me through a little bit about how you would do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it was, I mean, really convenient because we had 36 units to test it on with my
True.
management company.
Yeah.
So when we started building, so the first thing that we had was the messaging feature essentially. And then it took us a long time to get the right developers on our team to build out the UI, the front end of the website. And our software developer built out the back end pretty quickly, as far as the basics. And then we had, I mean, we basically just did a lot of research on how to prompt engineer and
Mhm.
figured out like it was like trial and error, like what needs to be added. And we did this for months and months and months. And so it was from like probably beginning of the year, I would say like January through May, we were just testing it like every single day. How is this responding? And plugging it into
Mm.
our own properties and seeing like, okay, I didn't really quite like exactly how it responded there. What can we add? And just using like, so our model right now we're using is Claude. We were using GPT-4o for a while, but we found that Claude was a little bit more conversational. Provided more of like a solution oriented, like I'm going to
Interesting.
troubleshoot this and ask the right questions to clarify the situation to get down to a solution.
Yeah.
So that's what we use now. And our prompt has changed a lot over time, but when we truly felt very comfortable to release it was in May, and we're like, okay, we're ready to go. We fully launched the product, and we've changed it a little bit since then, just from some guest feedback. But yeah, it was really just from scratch, like just figuring it
Yeah.
all out ourselves.
I so from my understanding, it's constantly learning, right? So the more information that you feed it, the more that it learns, and it learns from what it's done in the past and what you've sent it, which is why, having all the units that you have has probably been very beneficial to like get up and going. I would imagine that when you, if I understand correctly, as it continues to exist, it will continue to have more conversations, which will then allow it to see more situations, which will allow it to learn how to better respond to even more situations, and it'll just kind of keep learning from that scenario. Is that right, or is it more of like you've got it set up in a certain way, and then it works as it goes, and you make tweaks as you go.
So it's more the latter as far as how we have it set up right now, just because there's a lot of incorrect information that gets sent through the PMS
Mm,
from host to guest. And so if a guest says like, if it's so say we're talking about like property specific details and it's like um the trash code isn't working or something, like the whatever code isn't working, or it a guest sends a message where like it says something as a fact. We don't want the AI to
right,
take that as a fact. Also, if
right.
you have virtual assistants that work for you and maybe they've been sending things wrong,
Yeah, okay, I see
and
where you're
it
going
takes
with
the
that.
entire conversation history and it puts that into play, it's a little risky. It also takes up a lot of data if you use every single conversation and then add it to the prompt from there. There's things that we can do where we can make it learn from certain situations and then add those, basically those instances into the prompt, and it's not as data heavy. But there's definitely a lot of risks, and we've kind of experimented with implementing, like right now we do, right when you upload your property management system, it's going to go through all your conversations and learn all of that. And so it's going to try to find certain information that you've sent to other guests, and you can choose whether or not you want to do that. And if you find that it's responding weird to certain things, that's probably because you hadn't responded correctly in the past.
Mm,
And that's just
interesting.
one issue with AI where like you can't
Yeah,
necessarily like go manually pick and choose. I mean, you could which conversations, but that would take forever to
right.
use as the truth.
Do you so, I apologize for asking any questions that are pretty, well known already, but, just out of curiosity, I haven't signed up with the software yet, but, when you do sign up, do you have to fill out information about your property and answer all of the questions, right? Such as, like,
Um,
door code and if you have AC or not, stuff like that?
so when you connect your property management system, it's going to pull in all of your reservation data, all your property data that you've uploaded onto your PMS. Um, yeah, guest reservation data, calendar data, all that. So it's going to know all of that stuff. If you have like a welcome document in the form of a PDF or TXT or
Mhm,
docx, you can upload that too. It's going to use all of that information to be able to respond to your guests. So what we call the data set within HostBuddy is the property profile, and it basically looks like what you see on a PMS, where like there's like here's all the amenities, here's all the descriptions of everything, and there's a few extra fields that are like extra things like troubleshooting information and all that
mhm,
stuff. It's going to go through your past conversations and find certain troubleshooting instructions if you have it. It's going to go through your documents you've uploaded. It's going to take all the information that you've given it and
gotcha.
automatically autofill all that information through your property profile. So if you had like 300 properties, realistically, like you could just import your properties through your property management system and
Yeah.
then autofill all of them within minutes and then just
Hmm.
be ready to go. Um,
It's interesting what you're doing, just like in the if you think about it more of like in a business model, because one of the most important things for a business is having like annual reoccurring revenue, right? It just gives you the money with into the business that allows you to breathe and build and continue to survive. And the model is so interesting because the way that everybody else has approached is through a PMS system
mm,
and or right, so to be able to like help people manage their properties, whereas you're kind of coming in from the messaging side of things, and then you're going to be building up different integrations and building onto this messaging platform, which I find really interesting because it can do so much right now, but I bet you it could do a lot more as time continues, which is what you kind of alluded to when you're talking about where you see things going.
mhm.
um Very interesting.
Yeah,
Where else do you see so I would love to share a little bit about what we're doing on the AI side,
sure.
and get your feedback on it. So I have this service right now called Air Optimization, which will, if you have a listing, and let's say that you're not performing as well as you wanted to, right? Or you're just about to get started and you're about to throw a bunch of money at that property to get it up and running. There's a variety of things that you should learn about before you actually do that, such as, who's the demographic that I should be designing this listing for? Should it be family? Should it be kids? Should it be bachelorette? And how do you figure that out, right? To start off. But then once you know that, the question then becomes, how do I set this up in the most optimal way? What colors am I using? How am I designing it? What amenities are going to drive more revenue in comparison to the other amenities, right? So as an example, if you're going to be setting up a bachelorette trip home, you're not going to put a jungle gym in the backyard because they could care less, right? So you're trying to figure out like, how do I most optimally use the amount of dollars that I have to drive the most amount of revenue out of this listing? And that's what the service is meant for. It's like, let's take all the data for your market and also like markets and figure out what makes most logical sense here. Now, the reason this is a manual service and not turned into a software as of yet is just simply because there is so much data and so much information inside the photos of every single Airbnb that people have not been able to extract out except for manually reviewing photo after photo, right? I've looked through tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Airbnb photos at this point. And so, if you can get an AI software to actually be able to understand what's in the photos, the photo quality, different things along those lines, and then extract that and quantify that information into results, um, it automatically allows you to be able to know which demographic is going to be the most important focus on, which amenities are going to be driving the most amount of revenue for this market, which colors are going to probably drive more revenue in comparison to other ones, right? And then you're pulling from like all these like markets. So you have one mountain market, but maybe you take in like the top 10 mountain markets and you understand what's the best out of all those top 10, and you kind of bring it together to create this super property in a sense, right? And so we are in the process. I say we, but there's another guy who's leading it mainly. But it's kind of built off of the service that we've been providing. And we believe that we have the ability to read the photos. We have the ability to extract that data. We have the ability to take all that information, figure out your demographic, figure out your title, figure out your description, figure out the best colors, design, everything to put together like the most optimal listing fairly quickly. Where it's not 100% there, but we're getting really close, which is exciting. So this is like my little world into the AI world, right? And
Hmm.
I'm getting super excited about it. There's another thing I can mention too, but that's just the tip of the main thing we're focusing on first. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
that's really cool. I think the timing of that is probably super optimal for you right now because within the next year, like I guarantee you, you'll be able because like there's so many there's so many things that AI can do, but within images, it's still relatively limited. So like
Yeah.
it's going to get to a point where it's going to be able to read images like in high detail, like you said, like figure out how the quality is, what exactly is included, like what amenities it can identify within the photo. So I mean, some of that stuff it can do more at a basic level, but it's going to be able to do that and much more in probably about a year. So like once that technology is developed, and that's the great thing about AI, it's like we're not developing the AI, we're just
Yeah.
utilizing it into a tool. And
Yeah.
so like it just continues to get better and better and better alongside of our product and it just
Yeah.
improves it.
Yeah, that is one of the best parts about it. It's kind of like having the internet and building a website off the internet. You know what I mean? You don't have to build the internet, right? It's
Yeah.
already there. That's kind of AI in a sense. But yeah, man, I agree. I mean, like we're even dabbling with the ability to take a room. So like you have a beach home and you have like your actual Airbnb listing photo of that beach room, and you can get AI to redesign how it should be set up to be the most optimal for driving revenue. Where it's like, so in other words, what a designer would do, which is go in there and be like, this is how we're going to lay it out. It can just do that automatically, based off of what makes most logical sense or what drives most amount of revenue. But again, it's like it's not perfect, but it is interesting to get a 50% or 75% of the way there as of today. So we'll kind of see where that keeps going though.
Yeah, I think the sales specific tools have a lot of opportunity within STR right now. Like as far as like, you could have a statistic down the line where it's like people who use Air Optimizer, or is that what it's called? Air Optimize?
It's a stupid name. Air optimization.
Air
It's very
optimization and
yeah.
have this much percentage of additional occupancy per month, this much additional revenue, all that stuff. It's like it's real sales specific, and if you can see those results, if it's relatively affordable, it's like a why not type
Yeah,
deal.
I mean, we're pretty well already there with like the data that we have collected. Like the homes that I've helped TechVestor get are doing anywhere from 50 to 60% above market average in all of their markets. They're all within that top 10 percentile. So like there's a formula, it works, right? And if you can kind of understand what formula works in what market, then you can put it together in the best way.
Hmm.
But with that being said, I would say what I'm most interested in. like the optimization thing is fun. I would say, because like designing it and putting it together, it's fun. Then you see the listing pop up, and it's like it's beautiful and it's really fun to see. But where I really geek out is actually in the actual data to help acquire the best possible property, obviously. But there's like my thought, and I've been saying this for a while now, so I'm just kind of waiting, is that when you can start scraping all of that data from the photos, right, and actually putting it into a spreadsheet or something along those lines, and then start training an AI model to understand how to actually navigate the data in a way that is producing useful information. And then if you can then, because you need right now without the photo data, it's kind of useless. Because if somebody takes good photos and the other person takes bad photos, it can't tell the difference as to why one is making so much less, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if one like hyper focused on bachelorettes and they did an amazing job, they just can't tell the difference between good and bad and what's working. You really need to analyze those photos to understand the revenue differences between different properties. And so once it can actually do that, it's going to be able to have such a clear understanding as to what drives revenue and where. And then you then pop in the real estate data on the back end of it, and then you can find the most profitable properties in like a click of a button across any country, really, right?
Hmm.
So I'm excited because I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, and I know that AI is gonna take over my job within 5 years, right? And I just want to be able to be the person who kind of builds or something around that allows it to work for everyone. Because like genuinely, my goal is to ensure that nobody buys an unprofitable property, and so if I can create a tool that can do that at scale across the world, I see it being extremely beneficial.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's really exciting. I love the idea. I think not a whole lot of people have thought about implementing AI in that way. So I'm sure if you can be that person, it's going to
yeah.
be super valuable for people.
Yeah, I'm sure AirDNA is gonna be is cooking up some stuff right now. I wouldn't doubt
Yeah,
it. They got the
it's true.
resources.
In
Yeah,
silence.
yeah, exactly. I was just talking with them earlier today. But anyways, yeah, I'd love if anyone did it, to be honest. If anyone did it, even if it was like a tool that got you halfway there, because halfway there is still gonna allow you to analyze so much better and faster. So
Hmm.
it's cool, man. I think the AI coming into the industry, how AI is coming into the industry, because AI is getting into every industry, right? But how's it's coming into ours is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think with your idea too, it's really cool to see how that may improve the guest experience as well. If you're focusing on like, I mean, with your business, your existing business, you're already doing that and making sure that every person that invests in Airbnb is providing the proper amenities and experience for the guest, and it's going to be top tier. I was just thinking about like when I stayed in one of my first Airbnbs, like at the end of high school. I mean, I stayed in several Airbnbs. I've stayed in like shitty hotels, and thinking back on like how often I would stay in an Airbnb that just like wasn't super great. And then now when I stay in Airbnbs, like I go and travel, whenever I travel, I stay in an Airbnb. It's always like the average quality, I would say, is so much higher now because
Mhm.
yeah, there are a lot of Airbnbs, a lot of people doing it, but there's so much competition that everyone has to improve their properties. And I think that's super cool.
I mean, you have to. And every single industry that has ever matured, things just continue to get better, right? So Airbnb is only like 17 years old. I think it's somewhere around there. And so naturally, it's not going to be at its peak anytime soon. And like things will just continue to get better as it continues to scale, as it gets harder, as competition comes in. That's why capitalism is the best thing ever, right? Because it just makes everything. The goal is you got to keep making shit better, otherwise you
Hmm.
lose and you're not going to make money. And so then for the consumers, it just keeps getting better at the other end. Right. And you're like, oh, this is awesome. Right. It's harder for us, but that's, anything hard is fun, to be honest. So it kind of works out in the long run of things.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah, man. I am actually just intrigued how AI will create better guest experiences for all the Airbnbs. Because if we're being honest, right, most hosts, I would say the majority, not everybody. There's definitely a ridiculous amount of good Airbnb hosts, but there are a ton of bad Airbnb hosts as well. A ton. Whether that be just simply like you didn't fix the thing you were supposed to fix because you forgot to do it, or you didn't message the guest when you were supposed to message the guest, or the person is locked out of the house at 3 a.m. and they're trying to get in and you're sleeping, right? Like that's a reality of the Airbnb experience that I personally I hate it. Like when
Yeah.
I go and stay by myself, when I go to a place and it's just me or just me and my girlfriend, then I'm getting a hotel because I can't stand that inconsistency across Airbnbs. It kind of drives me nuts. And so I hate the idea of like showing up to a random place, not knowing how to get in, maybe being locked out, maybe like whatever issue might happen. I know for a fact it's not going to happen with the hotel, right? And I've gone to places in Toronto. I go and stay in an Airbnb, and the guy goes, "Hey, uh, just don't tell the front desk that you're staying here because it's not legal." I go, "Great," you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm instantly like so annoyed, and I'm paying this guy hundreds of dollars to stay at his place. So, I mean, that part you're not really going to get rid of with AI, but the idea that on the consumer side, AI could make the communication so much easier. I can give my answers whenever throughout the night. It's going to be even like a nicer person in comparison to a regular person because there's a thing called host fatigue where eventually you just get super super annoyed of answering the exact same question every single day for 3 years and you're just like kind of turn into a little bit of a dick in the way you're
Hmm.
responding, right? It's like that's not going to happen either. And so there's like better level of customer service, faster communication, but then on top of that, I'm sure you'll eventually have something like this where if a guest is like, "Hey, this is broken," it automatically turns into an issue that gets sent over to the host, added to like a list of other things that they need to fix, and then maybe it gets sent directly to their handyman guy, and he gets out there the next day, fixes it, and then all of a sudden, AI also automatically gets helps them get paid, and then everything kind of revolves a lot quicker and easier for everybody,
Hmm.
right? So like that world, I'm looking forward to. Because like that
Yeah.
one would make me excited to book out an Airbnb, even if I was just going by myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, people. It's the communication within teams that people don't like when, especially like property management companies or hosts that are like beginning to scale and they hit like 10, 12, 15 properties. Like they don't scale properly, or like they don't have the right systems in place. There's still maybe
Yeah.
the first point of contact where like they're just not making it a priority. They're not fixing things in time. Like what you
Yep.
mentioned with the AI being able to, record things as maintenance items. We have that within our HostBuddy AI system already. We're
Beautiful.
actually releasing a feature where it's going to be able to release basically team specific notifications, like you said. So for if you have a specific person, right now we already have that. If it's a specific person, you can have it reach out directly to them. But if it's like a maintenance specific concern, or if it's like about electrical or about a plumbing issue, it'll reach out directly to the plumber or directly to the electrician.
Mm.
And then yeah, down the line, going even further into potentially paying them and completing the task and all that. It's all good stuff, and it's in the pipeline for sure. So we're not far off.
That's again, I kind of bring it back to your business model. I'm a huge fan of business models and well thought out and well like strategic ways of building out a business. I genuinely think just being the point of contact, like being a part of the messaging, is going to allow you to do so many things for the hosts and work with the guests that there's so many branches of where your business can go and how it can continue to go, right? I mean,
Hmm.
even if you were to think of like StayFi, um, and what they're doing over there at StayFi, where they get the guests emails when they log into the internet and stuff like that. I'm sure that there's probably a way where you can get the guests emails and start creating a list and creating some sort of automations for them to be able to get other recommendations and information and stuff like that and kind of continue to build on what you're doing because you're at the point of contact, which is there's so many options when you're there. Whereas for myself as a person who is building out a business that just finds somebody a property, and then once they have it, they're done, right? And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, good luck, go for it, right? And they're a customer for a month or two, and that's about it. So it's funny because like I love your business model, but I have not built my business around it at all in any sort of way. But I like what you're doing, man, big time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Software as a service can be super lucrative and reliable, and um, I think we're about to get to that point where we're seeing it quickly grow and getting a lot of subscriptions. Our costs are super low right now, so we're
Mm,
just, I mean, what we're charging is basically average of around $5 per property per month. So it's a good opportunity for hosts to get in there and start using it. And we're definitely going to increase our prices over time. But yeah, it's like that reoccurring revenue that's been really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, recurring revenue and a ton of additional ways of being able to help people
Hmm.
is the interesting part.
Yeah, there's a conversation that I think every AI, or at least AI messaging tool company will probably have, which is like, do we turn ourselves into a property management system?
I know, I was
Because
just thinking that.
we're like we've sort of mastered the AI messaging, like, and we're connected into all of these, messaging features. How hard would it be to just extend that into just, being our own PMS? So it's it's something where like it might be kind of inevitable in the next few years where like PMSs are going to be using AI, so they either use our AI solution within their products or we become a PMS within itself. Because I mean, ideally for a host, you're gonna have one place, and it should be the property management system. Ideally, that just manages everything. But there's all these different tools like cleaner software, dynamic pricing, and locking, keypad access, and all that stuff. So like, there's a lot of different tools that everybody uses. Obviously, it's not like super realistic to have everything in one place, but yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. I have a feeling that certain property management systems are going to start like reaching out to these tools and like trying to use their products and use them within their feature set.
It's interesting that there's so many different PMSs that exist because if you just, most software companies, there usually becomes one that is so dominant that it destroys the ability for any of the other ones to even exist in the first place. And it seems like, and like Airbnb really isn't a massive industry. There's like, 2 million hosts here in the, or sorry, 2 million hosts in the States out of 350 million people. So you're hitting like a really small group of people in comparison to other softwares that just hit like Spotify, which can hit everybody and anybody,
Hmm.
right? I know it's not a direct comparable, but you get the general idea. And yet there's so many PMS systems that exist, and the companies are operational, and I'm sure they're making money because they're still staying around, right? So it is interesting
Yeah.
that nobody has taken over.
Yeah, it's funny talk because we talk a lot of property management systems, and a lot of times I think their marketing approach is becoming the most popular PMS in whatever region they're in. And so we've talked to like
Right.
a few. I know like, and we're going international now with like some of our property management systems because a lot of our customers, not a lot, but we have a portion of our customers that are international coming from different companies, and they're like, I use this PMS. Could you partner with them? And we're like, sure, let's have a conversation. And just listening to how they market to their hosts is like, we are the biggest property management system in Spain, or like the biggest one. And
Yeah.
this, it's
Yeah. That
funny
is weird, eh?
because there's
Like
no
that.
way to like really separate yourself because everyone's providing the same features. It's like, are you just
Right.
cheaper or do you provide something that nobody else does, which probably isn't super likely.
Yeah, because it's the same stuff that everyone's doing, which is also weird because it's like, well, why doesn't everyone just use one or three? You know what I mean? Instead of like 50.
Yeah,
Uh,
I imagine there'll probably be a little bit more separation in the future. I just like, because property management systems are still like relatively new. And like, I know like when I shopped around for property management systems, we first started with Hospitable and we moved away from that because we wanted more owner reporting options and just better like API messaging connection and stuff. So we looked at a lot of different ones, and everyone is like, I mean, it's pretty similar. They all do relatively the same stuff. Prices are kind of similar. But it's like, I don't even know, like, why are there so many? Like, it doesn't really make any sense. But I think it's just because of the reason that there's still more room for another PMS in the market. Like, there always will be. I know HostAway had a huge investment of like $40 million into their company recently, where like I see them as one of the more up and coming property management systems, and they're definitely top five. But like, they're doing a lot of good stuff right now. Guesty's
yeah,
already
they've
up
been.
there.
Yeah, I guess he's been up there.
But
Hostaway
Guesty
has just.
provides a like premier messaging, like a premier pricing essentially. They're definitely the most expensive by far.
Yeah, I actually started with Guesty like 7 years ago, and they were charging 3%, I believe, at the time, something like that. And then when I got to, at first, it was like no big deal, and then I got to so many listings where they ended up taking like $300 one month or something like that. Like that's how much I ended up paying to them, or it was I can't remember how much it was, but it was a lot. And then I switched over to IGMS, I think that's what their name is,
Hmm.
and I was paying $30. Yeah, it was $300 to $30. And there was no real difference between them. I was like, I just saved 90% of that expense by switching. And
Yeah.
then Hospitable came out and they were even cheaper and they had like a better setup. And so I started using Hospitable and I was like, okay. Right. And I feel like everyone is always switching around too, because you're just like, I'm sick of these guys. They're not doing it great. These guys seem to be marketing better. And then you sign up and then you run into the same bullshit again. You're like, screw this. I'm out of here. And you want somewhere else. And
Yeah.
it's just the same issues everywhere you go.
And they're like, all right, let's start the 7 week onboarding process. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh
and then you
shit.
get locked in too, right? You,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
get, especially if you have like 100 properties under
Mhm.
one software, it is such a lift to get out of there to get to somewhere else. Any interesting? I'd be curious. Have you guys considered? So I know you said like you eventually become a PMS, but is there any other angle that you guys can go? That
Um, I mean, it's like the white labeling angle as far as providing AI messaging to all of these other PMSs
is there
at
any
this point.
other AI uh thing that you could like? Is there any other way of using it that wouldn't be turning
As
yourself into
far
PMS?
like kind of not related to messaging.
Yeah, not related to messaging, not to do with the white label, not to do with becoming a PMS. Like, is there any other angle that you can go
Yeah,
that
I mean, there's a lot
would?
of tools that we're trying to implement, or more so features. As far as like we're having HostBuddy read all of the guest reviews and then be able to provide suggestions for improvement on your property. Where there's a lot of different things that you can do with messaging because once
Right.
you receive all the data from your property management system or from Airbnb or Vrbo or Booking.com, there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. And so we're setting up basically like templated messages right now where you can a really big thing that we're seeing with like larger property management companies is they want not only the good reviews on their Airbnb profile but also on their like Google business profile. And so if you receive a 5-star review, for example, we can have HostBuddy automatically reach back out to that guest like 3 to 5 days after their stay ends or after they submit the review, and say, hey, here's the review that you submitted. Thank you so much for giving us 5 stars. Here's a link to our Google business profile. If you wouldn't mind just copy and pasting this review into the Google review, that would help our business a lot. So it's like little things like that where we've thought about, like we've had ideas from other people that have come to us like saying, can it do this, can it do that, and we're like, yeah, it'd be pretty easy. It's just like all these little things that now like you're building out such a robust system where yeah, it's like maybe it's based around messaging, but there's all these other tools. Like right now we're working on getting a contract with some cleaning management software so that like you can go back and forth with certain issues that are reported by cleaners and vice versa. You can push reports into the cleaning software, and HostBuddy will know when a property is done cleaning so they can offer an early check-in, stuff like that. So it's really just right now extensions off of the messaging and the guest experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that I mean that concept on the cleaning side of things is super interesting because that would be like a there's a great avenue to go towards because there's so many little things that need to be done which are super annoying to deal with, right? It's like
Hmm.
your cleaner tells you like, hey, here's all the repairs. Well, it automatically uploads and maybe it goes to Monday.com and now you've got your list. Or maybe like your cleaner says, hey, we're out of toilet paper and it automatically buys you another set of toilet paper. If I don't know if it can automatically buy, but maybe it gets it into your cart and then you go in there once a week and ship it out, right, or something like that. I don't know. I'm intrigued to see where you guys go with it. It
Hmm.
sounds like you guys got like a great head start. I'm very curious what your background is and like what your business partner's background is, and how you guys. I know you said that you had a bunch of properties. You're trying to solve your own problem,
Hmm.
but there's millions of Airbnb hosts out there, and none of them have done this. So like, how did you end up doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, my background is I went to school for civil engineering, so I was a civil engineer for probably like 2 or 3 years, and I knew that. I mean, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like I've wanted to be one my entire life, or at least a successful entrepreneur. And I've had other ventures that I've been involved in, but getting into the short-term rental space was great. It's so scalable, and like I'm not necessarily super uh like I don't know. I don't love the customer service industry or the hospitality industry. I just think like the business model was great for me. And that's why I like partnering with great team members is good because they can handle a lot of the customer service and having AI tools now. Like they're like you said, there's like a burnout of the host where like maybe at this point, like I was talking on my podcast last week to my business partner Sam about like there's calls that come in now and I'm just like, oh, like how much do I really care at this point about this guest? But then I think about it and I'm like, I want to be treated like if I were them, I would want to be treated much better. Like there needs to be a standard throughout our company of that. So like as far as my involvement in Airbnb, like I'm very much focused on the operational side of things and making sure they run very smoothly. My business partner Sam has more of like he's actually did like tech sales a lot before this and I mean like we're younger, so we're, like more interested in implementing new technology and initially we're like, okay, how do we make sure that our workload is as minimal as possible when we're managing our Airbnbs? And we're like, okay, messaging takes up a lot of time. Obviously, we have virtual assistants, but issues always come up and like you can teach AI a lot of things now and they'll potentially even do a lot better than a virtual assistant. So we're like, let's see if there's an option out there for us and there wasn't. So we're like, let's see if we can build it. And then like it kind of blossomed from there into just like,
Hmm.
let's try to create like the most effective tool for all hosts.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it came from. Our other business partner, which we could not run the business without him. He's a software developer, worked for like 4 or 5 years at a software development company. So like he's really like the brains behind how it works. And then,
Yeah.
you know, as hosts, we have a great perspective on what to implement. And so
Hmm.
we're like, okay, if I were using this, I would want it to look like this. And then like I will design something in Canva and send it to our web developer and send it to our software developer and they'll make it happen. So it's really cool to see all those things kind of transform. But that was the main motivation was just like we wanted something for our own company. Obviously, we saw the business opportunity, but like yeah, there really wasn't anything super effective about a year ago, and now
Yeah.
there's HostBuddy. So
Interesting. Do you find it difficult to be a non-developer building out a software company?
dude, it's tough speaking in technical language when I'm not comfortable doing that because like I come from an engineering background, but it's civil engineering, so a lot more just like infrastructure and like construction and all that. Like I love technology, but I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm like super savvy. And so like understanding all the terms, I didn't know what API was like a year ago. Now I do. It's great. There's like little things that like I just didn't get and having to adjust to that has been interesting, but I think like being more so on the sales side of things, like hosts don't really care like necessarily how it works. They just want to know that it works, and
Hmm.
that's what it comes down to. So, but I think I mean right now we're working on building out our software development team. So we have another developer that's coming on this week to help us out to build additional features because like on this call alone we've probably mentioned like 5 to 10 different options
Yeah.
for things that we can like different directions that we can go. And so if we can provide all those things to hosts, like that's obviously ideal, but we have to pick and choose which ones are actually the most valuable right now and what are actually going to be used.
Hmm. I asked that question because I deal with the same thing. I mean, I had no idea what an API was a while ago, and I was like, it does what?
Yeah.
How does that work? But I mean, I have dabbled in the software game a little bit and trying to test out a couple of different ideas. And so if you don't have like a strong person you can rely on who actually knows how to program, there's no way you can do it. It's like trying to build a building having no idea how to build at all, right?
Mhm.
Um, Interesting though. I'm curious to know how to see how things go, man. I'd love if you keep in touch, and if you want to run anything by me, by all means, I'll probably reach out to you with the questions I may have as well, just because with the AI optimization tool that we're building out, I'm sure you'd be a good person to soundboard off of, just given the fact that you guys are also working in the AI space, and there's not too many of them right now when it comes to Airbnb and AI. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
man.
Let's see how we can work together in the future. But yeah, I'm glad that I'm always down to talk AI, and I'm glad that we
Yeah,
went this direction with the podcast. So I appreciate it.
nice. Yeah, it was a fun convo, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, of course. We'll talk soon.
See ya.